So, welcome. Today we're going to be doing modeling something in Blender for the first time. So this is going to be your first assignment as part of this workshop for the design school. So to do something that's going to be both a little bit challenging as your first assignment and also a little bit more fun as well, we're going to be doing a weapon. It's going to be something simple, not too complicated, but at least this weapon's going to give you some sort of an idea of the workflow of modeling within Blender. So let's go ahead and get started. So if you can see, Blender open, and I'm going to go ahead and take this cube right here and hit X and delete that because I'm not going to need it. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to gather my reference material. So I'm going to go into front view right here, pressing onto the X axis, and I'm going to hit Shift A to create. And then when I have this menu here, you see all the options where you can create something, mesh, curve, surface, and such. But in this occasion, we're going to be getting some reference material. So I'm going to be going all the way down to image. And I'm going to go to reference. And then after I go to my reference, I need to go find the reference that I need. You guys should already have it as part of our assignment. And in this occasion, it's going to be a scimitar, which is a kind of sword. So I'm going to go ahead and find the front view. And with this, something like this, as you can see, there's not a lot of detail. So how you want to craft it is up to you. So let's go ahead and get started. So now that you have this loaded onto your screen, you have that as a plane. As you can see, if you rotate like this, that's your reference plane. So since we're going to be working at 0, 0, 0 point in the grid, I'm going to go ahead and take this, slide it a little bit back. Good. And as you can see, it's more or less centered. For something like a weapon, you really don't need to center it completely. And since we're going to have a free reign in terms of how it's going to look, it doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start modeling the blade. And to do that, I'm going to start out with a box because that's probably the most easiest shape to go start out with. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift A. I'm going to go to Mesh, and I'm going to go ahead and place a cube. So that's going to be the basis for my box and such. So right now, we really don't need to mess around with the, if you look down here, this little pop-up menu, you can choose how many, the size of it, so we can kind of scale that a little bit closer to the size of the sword we're going to work with. And the rest of it doesn't really matter because we're going to start very simple and then model this thing from the ground up. So let's go ahead and close that off. And then now that I've done that, I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it more along the starting point that I want with this mesh. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the mesh is going to line up with the reference material. So if you hit Alt-Z, Alt or Alt-Z as they say it, you will get X-ray mode, and then you can take your initial model like this and start to line it up more or less, the orientation that it's going to have, move it a little bit here. And then the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to object mode and go to edit mode. And that's where I'm going to be able to edit my vertices, either my edges or my faces. And the shortcuts for that is either 1, which selects up here vertices. If I press 2, select edges. And if I press 3, it creates faces, or selects faces. And in case you're wondering if you want to select this thing entirely as an element, as whole one piece, if you hold your mouse over the mesh, you press L, it selects the whole element if you need to move it or make major adjustments or copy something to recycle and such. So let's go ahead and go back to the front view and start working with that. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press 1 to go to vertice mode, and I am going to start taking some of these vertices and using this white gizmo right cursor on the vertices to move all of these into position, at least the initial starting position and such. So as you can see, now I have the initial location of the blade, and let's go ahead and adjust the thickness. I know we don't have a side view for this, but of course a blade is only so thick, so I'm going to go to change my perspective to side, and I'm going to go ahead and take these vertices, move them a little bit closer since this is a sword. Of course, after we've gotten some more progress, we can sort of adjust this thing, move this closer, and then now we have the basis of a sword. So what's going to be the next step? The next step is going to be a lot of extrusions and adjustments to sort of get the width of the blade, and then after we get to the end of it, we'll make some cuts to get that sort of curve that you see right there and such. So I'm going to go zoom in here, and then I'm going to go into press 3 and go into face mode, click at the bottom face, go back to the front perspective, and there's 2 ways that you can do extrude this. If you press E while you have it selected, as you can see, it'll take your mesh and it'll move it along an axis. Or you can take this option right here, which is the extrude region, and then it gives you a little cursor here that you could actually move and adjust your extrusion and such. So now that I've done that for the first one, I'm going to go ahead and do the whole blade, which is going to be the same series over again. So I'm going to press 1 to go to vertice, and I'm going to align this closer to where it meets with the blade, as you can see. Then I'm going to go 3 for face, and again, extrude. As you can see, I deselected it, so I'm going to go ahead and select it again. Try to select it again. Sometimes an X-ray doesn't give you that, so let's do that. Front perspective, and you know what? Let's go ahead and extrude a couple of these and then adjust after the fact. So I'm going to go hit E, number 1, E, number 2, E, number 3, and E, number 4. And then after I've created a series like that, then I can start to adjust them based on the position. So now I'm going to press 1 again to go to vertice mode, zoom in, and Alt-Z for X-ray mode. And then I'm going to start taking these and selecting and adjusting them as I need to. So that's that. This one. This one. And move that here. Could be that depending on how smooth we want to do this, we're going to do some more cuts afterwards. But right now we're getting the basic initial shape, so this should be good enough. Cool. Yes. So let's see, what's going to be the next step? Next step is going to be now to make, again, more extrusion. So I'm going to go press 3, go to face mode. Select the face that I want to extrude, back to front view. And then again, E is the shortcut. So E, drag it 1, 2, 3, and then after I do that, Alt-C to go, Alt-Z to go to X-ray mode, and then again start adjusting all of the vertices. So 1 for the shortcut, select all of these, move them to the side. And before we get a little too ahead with this assignment, let's go ahead and save, because as a 3D artist, you better learn to instinctively just save all of your work, because once you've lost hours of work, or you do the stupid mistake where you actually forget to save it, you're going to be in a world of pain. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and do save as. Let's see, where do I want this to be? C3D, Blender Scimitar, and call it Scimitar. Boom, sounds good. Cool, now that I've done that saved, as you can see, I've made some adjustments on the blade. And as you can see right here, I could already see this early, this one probably should be distributed a little more evenly, so the distance between one face to another is not too dramatic and such when it comes to the shape. And sometimes you'll have to go and make little small tweaks like this to make sure that your vertices / faces follow the contour of the shape that you want to do. So now that we've done that, of course, we're going to go back to 3, which is going to be press 3, face mode, and we're going to do more extrusions. I have that selected. I'm going to go ahead, press E, 1, 2, and the last one. And then after you've created those series of extrusions, again, go to press 1 to go to vertice mode, and then you're going to start adjusting those based on the shape. Boom, boom. This is where it's going to get a little tricky here. That's where we're going to do some of these adjustments to make sure we have that curvature in the blade. And let's see, this one can go right here, and this one can go right there. As you can see, we're probably going to need another cut, but now we kind of have the initial first shape of the blade. Control S to save this, And then, as you can see, I could probably do a better job distributing the vertices on this blade itself. So what I'm going to do is take these and distribute it so it's a little more even as the blade starts to curl. And then the next step was going to be to go press 2, go to edge mode, and if you hit Alt while you click, nope, wrong orientation, so just click and drag, and once you have all of these selected, then if you go to loop cut, you go right there and you make a first cut, and then you go back to the front screen, exit loop cut, press 1 to go to vertices again, and then you do the same. You adjust, make a cut, you adjust, and you know what, right now that's probably good enough. So, and then after you make cuts, you have to remember to go ahead and redistribute your vertices so they kind of fit the contour of the shape, whatever you're making, a little bit more accurately and evenly as well. So I will go do that. And now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and cut a shape down the center of the blade so I could have this little cut right there. So I am going to hit go to 2. And select all of these right here. So select on. Cool. So now that I have all of those selected, I'm going to go ahead and do another loop cut right down the center, and then I'm going to go to the front view, scroll in, exit loop cut, and then start to adjust my vertices based on the cut that I made. So in this occasion, I'm going to take this a little bit more this way and redistribute this one, although ultimately when we're done with this, we're going to optimize it, so these ultimately are not going to matter. So right now that's good enough shape for the blade. As you can see, you have some sort of sense of thickness to it, but maybe it could be a little bit thicker because I want to go ahead and take it and have a sharp edge on this blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit edit mode. I am going to go to the side view, and then I'm going to go with scale, and I'm going to non-uniform scale this right here by clicking on this red axis and make it thicker. Cool. And then the next part we're going to do is we're going to make the cut on the blade so it has more of that edge. So let's go ahead and Alt C and go to shaded view. And let's see, I'm going to go to edit mode, and I'm going to go and take, let's see, edges, Alt click on this one, Alt shift click for it so you select both of them. And then let's see which one's going to be the best. I believe bevel is going to be the one we're going to use, so I'm going to take this controller, and as you can see, as I start to pull, it starts to give me a blade on this. And then when you do that, make sure that you put it where it sort of more or less lines up like this. And the issue that you're going to have now when you do it like this is, of course, you have a sharp blade on this, but you have two vertices that are lined up from the extrude. So what we're going to do now is we're going to weld these together, and to do that we're going to go into top mode, top view, press 1 for vertices, select all these right here that were involved in that cut, make sure they're all selected, and you're probably going to see, let's see, probably going to notice you miss a few, so select the last ones you're missing, just like this. And then when I do that and I have them all selected, you make sure nothing else is selected like you shouldn't be. And then I'm going to go ahead and M, which is how you're going to do weld something. And I'm going to go ahead and, if you do center, it welds everything together into one point. At the cursor, it's going to give you a location where everything's going to weld. Collapse is going to collapse all of these. I think that could be the one we want. Let's go ahead and do that. No, as you can see, that kind of screwed up the whole model. So instead of that, I'm going to go ahead, hit M, and hit by distance. Let's see. Then when I do by distance, then it's going to sort of do the collapse based on how close it is. So we're going to have to see, as you can see, I missed some. So I have to make sure that all of these are selected. Another one. Missed quite a lot of them, in fact. Just make sure all of them are selected. R, and then I'm going to hit M again, and then by distance, and when I start to raise this distance, it means that they're going to, the closer they are, the better the weld is going to be. So if I go too high, as you can see, it ruins it, so I'm going to make sure it kind of, you can see the difference when they get welded. You can see that little flicker. So that's about right there, good. And then once I did that, it should, once I get to here, if I click to one of these, it should be just one, as you can see. So that should be the case for the rest of the blade. So now, the cool thing is now we have the side of the blade, which is nice. Now it has a little bit of sharpness to it. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end this video, and I'll see you in video number 2. Make sure to save your work, and I will see you soon.